from killing a German citizen,
I took another man's life, and I'm sorry I can't change that,
to killing someone in broad daylight on the highway.
And then I heard a gunshot. And initially, I ain't gonna lie, I assumed he shot.
These are cases where road ragers are sentenced to life.
I took another man's life, and I'm sorry I can't change that. I did what I felt was necessary to protect my family and myself. And I hope that no one ever finds himself in the position that I was placed in. Thank you.
This is Marcus Kaarma, the Montana man who shot and killed 17-year-old German exchange student Dacarrei Kinard inside his garage in 2014. But hours before that deadly shooting, something else happened. A neighbor later came forward and said she had a road rage encounter with Kaarma earlier that same afternoon. She said he was driving extremely slow, around 10 miles per hour, and when she tried to pass him, he slowed down even more. When she attempted to go around, he cut her off and forced her toward the curb. Then he got out of his car and started yelling. According to the neighbor, Kaarma was aggressive, swearing, and acting irrational. She said he seemed unstable, possibly under the influence or off medication. She was so scared, she rolled up her window and backed away. Later that night, 17-year-old Dacarrei ended up in Kaarma's garage, and Kaarma fired a shotgun and killed him. The shooting drew international attention, partly because Dacarrei was a visiting student and because the facts forced a hard legal question. Was this a reasonable response to a suspected trespasser or an intentional decision to use deadly force before knowing the threat? After his neighbor saw police flooding the area near Kaarma's home, she called 911 to report what had happened earlier that day, believing that the road rage incident reflected his state of mind that day. Kaarma said the shooting was self-defense, leaning on Montana's castle doctrine idea, the belief that you can protect your home, but prosecutors painted a very different picture. They argued Kaarma wasn't reacting in panic. He was waiting for someone to come back after previous burglaries and was prepared to shoot.
And Kaarma is not Missoula. Kaarma is Kaarma. He's in jail, and I think Missoula is a safe area, not bad area.
A jury didn't buy the self-defense story. In December 2014, Kaarma was convicted of deliberate homicide, basically first-degree murder in other states.
Is that you be sentenced to the Montana State Prison for a period of 70 years. You're not eligible for parole for the first 20 years.
Here's how it ended. Prosecutors said Kaarma had set up a motion sensor in his garage after previous thefts and waited with a shotgun. When Dacarrei Kinard entered the open garage, Kaarma fired 4 shots, killing him. In 2015, a jury found Marcus Kaarma guilty of deliberate homicide. He was sentenced to 70 years in prison, with no chance of parole for at least 20 years. Moving next to an old man who killed someone during road rage.
Convicted of second-degree murder after road rage and facing his sentencing, 69-year-old Martin Zale avoided eye contact with the people who loved 42-year-old Derek Fleming.
This is Martin Zale, a 69-year-old man from Michigan who got pulled into a road rage moment that ended with someone dead. The victim was 43-year-old Derek Fleming. It happened at a stoplight on Grand River Avenue near Chilson Road in Genoa Township. Witnesses said Fleming walked up to Zale's pickup to complain about aggressive driving. Zale said Fleming was pounding on the truck, reaching in through the window, and even hit him. And that's why he fired, because this happened at a public intersection. Witnesses became a big part of the story. What they saw, what they heard, and how the moments leading up to the shooting were described. And that's why the self-defense claim got tested so hard in court.
That I witnessed a stranger make the decision to end the life of my unarmed husband, my soulmate and best friend of almost 20 years.
I will never see my son again, see his beautiful blue eyes, hear him laugh, see his smile, hug him, watch him play with his kids.
You will never know the pain that my family endured that day, as my grandchildren were told they would never see their father again.
I want you to get the maximum sentencing.
But in court, Zale admitted something important. When he pulled the trigger, he meant to kill Fleming. Prosecutors argued he was sitting inside a large Dodge Ram, 4,000 pounds of protection, and could have kept the window up or driven away. The jury agreed and convicted him of second-degree murder, plus gun-related charges.
You pose the worst kind of danger to our community. that you were a shooting waiting to happen.
At first, his sentencing got postponed because he hired a new attorney. Then, on June 12, 2015, the judge sentenced Martin Zale to 25 to 50 years in prison for the shooting. The next one is especially sad. During road rage, an 11-year-old lost his life.
Nobody, this is not fair. He should not be out in the streets after what he did. And yes, he cooperated after he got out because he had no choice. He got crashed into because he was trying to leave. He did not feel any remorse for this. He was trying to leave the scene and just like, oh, I scared him, I'm leaving. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't just shoot at a person and just try to leave the scene.
On November 14, 2025, an 11-year-old boy named Brandon Dominguez Chavarria was riding in the back seat of his stepfather's SUV on the way to school in Henderson, Nevada. Around 7:30 a.m., traffic was heavy, and two drivers began jockeying for position, trying to get ahead of each other on the congested freeway. Things quickly turned ugly. After a verbal exchange between the drivers, the suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Matthew Johns, allegedly pulled out a handgun and fired one shot at the SUV. Brandon, who was sitting in the back seat, was struck and critically injured. Brandon's stepfather then rammed John's car to stop him, and both men got out in the middle of the freeway. A passing police officer saw the confrontation, took Johns into custody, and recovered the firearm. Emergency responders rushed Brandon to a nearby hospital, but despite their efforts, he died from his injuries.
Driver, Mr. Ayala, who was the stepdad of the victim, Brandon, who was driving the car, very specifically told detectives that he believed that the defendant was trying to shoot at him and kill him, and based off of the fact that these were two moving vehicles on the highway, that it was the speed and the velocity that ultimately had the bullet go through the back driver's side window and strike the victim.
The suspect later told police he didn't realize there was a child in the vehicle when he fired. Johns was arrested and booked on open murder and weapons charges, and a judge ordered he be held without bail as the case moves forward.
As to the issue of open murder, the court does find that there is slight marginal evidence for the charge that is alleged in the amended criminal complaint, and that the question of fact for a jury is the nature that the question of fact for the jury is the level that they will determine at the jury trial, not at this stage of the proceeding.
Tyler Matthew Johns pleaded not guilty, and the court set a jury trial date for November 9th, 2026, with a separate readiness/status hearing scheduled for April. After the case was submitted for review, prosecutors chose not to seek the death penalty. At a November 18th hearing on the murder charge, the judge denied bail, meaning Johns remains in custody as the case moves through pretrial motions and evidence review. Next up, another road rage incident, but this one claimed self-defense. This is Dacarrei Kinard. In May 2023, he shot and killed 40-year-old George Gio Jensen during a road rage incident on Interstate 76 in Norton, Ohio. It started like a lot of highway conflicts do. Two cars, a few seconds of frustration, and a situation that keeps escalating instead of cooling off. But this one didn't end with horns or gestures. It ended with gunfire. Jensen was driving home from work when Kinard fired multiple shots into his vehicle, and Jensen later died at the hospital from his injuries.
I'm very sorry. Never meant for any of this to happen. To the state of Ohio, to the city of North, to Summit County. I'm very apologetic. Just wish I could go back in time and take back my actions.
Kinard claimed he acted in self-defense, but a Summit County jury didn't believe him. They found him guilty of voluntary manslaughter, felonious assault, and discharging a firearm near prohibited premises, even though he was acquitted of murder.
Years in the penitentiary that must run and will run consecutive with the two firearm specifications for a total of 15 to 17 and a half years in the penitentiary. Your actions that day took you away from your family, but took Mr. Jensen away from his. And none of it makes any sense because it didn't have to happen.
At his sentencing hearing on April 12, 2024, the judge gave Kinard 15 to 17 and a half years in prison. That was less than the maximum possible, but still a long time behind bars for taking a life during a road conflict. Family members and friends spoke in court, expressing their heartbreak and anger over losing Gio, who they described as a kind and caring person. Kinard apologized, saying he wished he could take back his actions, but that didn't change the sentence. In the next case, the suspect did not want to admit what he had done.
I want to send my condolences to the Biltmore family. I'm sorry for your loss. I know what the prosecutor said. I know what the judge said, that I'm guilty, but they're wrong.
This is Edison Reyes, a 38-year-old man whose road rage turned deadly in 2021. What started as a normal drive on Hawaii's H1 freeway quickly turned into a chase and confrontation situation. Prosecutors said it wasn't a random accident or a misunderstanding. It was a choice to escalate, and once a gun came out, there was no take it back. The victim was 19-year-old Tristan Billaman. Prosecutors said the two crossed paths on the H1 freeway, where a confrontation escalated fast. Reyes forced Billaman's car to stop near the like off-ramp. Moments later, Reyes pulled out a gun and shot him. The bullet went straight through Billaman's chest, killing him.
I know what the prosecutor said. I know what the judge said, that I'm guilty, but they're wrong. I'm innocent. I never commit this crime.
In May, a judge found Reyes guilty of second-degree murder, along with multiple firearm offenses and terroristic threatening. Normally, second-degree murder allows for parole one day, but this case was different.
You can argue all you want about the sentence, but a verdict has been rendered. You can appeal that. That's your right. But this morning is sentenced.
At the time of the shooting, Reyes was already on parole for a previous violent case involving a gun, an assault, and reckless endangering charge. Because of that history, prosecutors asked the judge to treat him as a persistent offender, and the judge agreed.
His incarceration is necessary for the protection of the public.
Edison Reyes was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, meaning he will never be released. A teenager lost his life over road rage, and Reyes will spend the rest of his life behind bars because of it.